The world seemed to freeze before my eyes when I saw a truck racing full speed toward the crosswalk. A woman was stepping across at that exact moment, lost in her phone, completely unaware of the danger. Somehow, I knew it wasn't going to stop, and in the final instant, I grabbed her hand and yanked her to the side, pulling her away from a tragedy that was only a breath away. I was walking down Main Street in Cedar Falls on a slow Tuesday afternoon, my 7-year-old daughter's hand tucked in mine, when the calm broke apart like glass. A roar of metal on metal came screaming down Maple Hill, the kind of sound you feel in your chest before your brain even catches up. I turned just in time to see a runaway truck barreling toward the crosswalk, brakes gone, 20 tons of death coming fast. Right in its path stood a woman. White coat, earbuds in, staring at nothing. Not moving, not even aware that the next breath might be her last. My world slowed to a crawl. I let go of Lily's hand and sprinted forward, my body moving before I could think. My fingers caught silk fabric, and I yanked hard, pulling her backward as the truck thundered by, close enough to rattle the fillings in my teeth. It slammed through a streetlight, sparks showering the asphalt like fireworks. The woman collapsed against me, trembling. Expensive perfume mixed with the sharper salt of fresh tears. Her phone hit the pavement, screen cracked wide open, spilling light across the road with 17 missed calls flashing from a legal firm I didn't recognize. Whatever her story was, it looked heavy. My daughter tugged at my sleeve, her voice small but steady. "Daddy, why was she standing in the road like that?" I crouched beside Lily, my hand still on the stranger's arm to steady her. "Sometimes people get lost in their thoughts, sweetheart." Then I looked up at the woman. Her face was pale, her eyes unfocused, but she was breathing. "You sure you're all right?" That was too close. She opened her mouth, but only a whisper came out. "Thank you." I caught the raw edge in her voice, like someone standing at the end of her rope. The broken phone buzzed again on the pavement. She pressed her heel into it, crushing the last connection to whoever kept calling. I noticed, but didn't ask. Some things a person has to explain in their own time. "Across the street's Martha's Diner," I said gently. "Might be good to sit down for a minute." Lily, still buzzing from the drama, grinned. "Can we get pancakes, Daddy? I bet the lady likes pancakes too." For the first time, the woman's lips almost curved into a smile. She nodded, though her voice was unsteady. "I'd like that, but I should warn you, I'm not great company right now." "Neither am I most days," I admitted, standing and offering her my hand. "But Lily here has enough good company for all three of us." Together, we crossed to the diner. I didn't know her name yet, or why she'd been standing there like she wanted the truck to choose her fate. But I did know one thing. Life doesn't usually put people in your path without a reason. The bell over Martha's Diner door jingled as I pushed it open, holding it for Lily and the stranger I'd just pulled out of traffic. The place smelled like coffee that had been on the burner too long, bacon grease soaked into the walls, and fresh pies cooling on the counter. To me, it smelled like comfort. We slid into a cracked red vinyl booth near the window. I ordered coffee and chocolate chip pancakes for Lily without even asking. She was bouncing in her seat, syrup already on her mind. The woman, still shaken, still quiet, wrapped her hands around the water glass like it was an anchor. She looked expensive, even sitting in a diner that hadn't updated its menu since the 70s. The kind of coat you only see in magazines, not in towns like Cedar Falls. But her eyes were rimmed red, and she held herself like someone bracing for another blow. Lily broke the silence first. "Do you like pancakes? Daddy makes the best at home. Better than these, but these are pretty good too." The woman's lips twitched into something close to a smile. "I think I like pancakes very much." I leaned back, studying her. "You're lucky my kid loves talking. I'm not usually much for small talk these days." That earned me a glance, a flicker of curiosity. "Why is that?" I hesitated, running a thumb along the edge of the table. "Life just shifts, loses some of its noise when you've been through certain things." Her eyes softened, but she didn't press. Smart woman. When the waitress dropped off Lily's pancakes, my daughter dug in like she hadn't eaten in a week, chocolate smeared across her grin. The woman watched her with something almost like awe, like she was seeing joy she didn't recognize. "You play piano?" she asked Lily after hearing me mention the recital. Lily nodded enthusiastically, syrup decorating her chin. "Not very good yet, but my teacher says I have rhythm." She said the word carefully, proud of herself. I smiled, though it tugged at something inside. We practice on the old upright at church. Not ideal, but it works. I saw the flicker in the woman's expression, like she'd grown up in a house where money wasn't counted before buying things like instruments. But she didn't say anything about it. She just listened. Over the next half hour, bits of her story trickled out. She said she'd come to Cedar Falls to get away from family complications. That was all she offered, and I didn't pry. I knew enough about complicated families to recognize the weight behind those words. By the time the plates were cleared, Lily was drawing cats on napkins with crayons the waitress had brought over. She leaned toward the woman, dead serious. "Are you going to stay here? Cedar Falls is nice. We have a good library." The woman laughed softly, the sound surprised out of her. For the first time, she looked lighter. And as I watched her watching my daughter, I wondered what had driven her to step into the road like she didn't care if the truck hit her. I didn't know her name yet, but I knew this. Whoever she was, something had cracked wide open in her life. And for reasons I couldn't explain, I felt like Lily and I were meant to be standing there when it did. That Saturday evening, the community center was buzzing like a hive. Folding chairs lined up in rows, proud grandparents with cameras ready, kids fidgeting in their best clothes. The smell of homemade cookies drifted from the refreshment table, and somebody's little brother was already sneaking one before the concert even started. Lily sat on the edge of the stage, swinging her legs nervously. She'd been practicing the same piece for weeks, and I knew she'd be fine, but try telling that to a 7-year-old about to play in front of the whole town. I sat in the third row, hands clasped tight, heart pounding harder than hers probably was. I didn't notice the woman slip in until the lights dimmed. She sat near the back, quiet, like she wasn't sure she had the right to be there. But her eyes never left the stage once Lily's little hands touched the keys. It was for Elise, every piano student's rite of passage. The notes weren't perfect. Her rhythm stumbled once or twice. But she played with every ounce of determination in her small body. And the room went still. No one cared about wrong notes when they could see how much heart she poured into it. When she finished, the place erupted in applause. My chest swelled until it hurt. I stood up, clapping so hard my palms stung, and mouthed, "That's my girl." Lily grinned at me from the stage, her nerves gone, her joy shining through. Afterward, the kids crowded around the cookie table, plates loaded high. I was helping Lily balance hers when the woman walked over. She leaned down to my daughter. "That was beautiful," she said softly. "You played with real feeling." Lily beamed, crumbs already on her dress. "Did you hear the part where I almost messed up but fixed it? Daddy says that's the most important thing. Not playing perfect, but not giving up." I ruffled her hair. "Smart kid." Then I glanced at the woman. Sometimes I think she teaches me more than I teach her. We left together into the crisp October air, the crowd thinning behind us. Streetlights flickered on, throwing a warm glow over the nearly empty lot. Lily skipped ahead, clutching her cookie plate. I don't know what made me say it. Maybe it was the way the woman had watched my daughter play, or maybe it was just time to take a risk. "Would you like to join us for dinner sometime this week?" I asked. Then, embarrassed, added quickly, "Nothing fancy. Lily's been asking about you, and I make a decent spaghetti." Her eyes widened, like she hadn't expected an invitation. Then something softened, and her voice came out steady. "I'd love that." And just like that, the thought of another empty night at my kitchen table didn't feel so certain anymore. Tuesday night rolled around, and I found myself pacing the kitchen, stirring sauce on the stove while Lily set napkins on the table with more care than usual. She kept peeking out the window every 30 seconds, asking when our guest would arrive. When the knock finally came, I wiped flour off my hands and opened the door. She stood there in a simple coat, no fancy pretense, just a nervous half-smile that hit me harder than it should have. "Hope you're hungry," I said, stepping aside. Lily insisted on making garlic bread from scratch. Inside, the house was nothing fancy. Craftsman style, 2 bedrooms, worn floors, and furniture I'd either built or repaired myself. On the mantel sat the music box I'd carved for Anna, lid open to reveal the small dancer frozen mid-step. She noticed it almost immediately. "It's beautiful," she whispered, touching the tiny figure with one careful finger. I cleared my throat. Anna loved to dance. I made that for our last anniversary before the accident. Lily still winds it up every night. Her expression shifted, almost like the weight of that detail pressed down on her. But she didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer more. Dinner was simple: spaghetti, garlic bread that Lily was absurdly proud of, and a salad she claimed credit for because she'd rinsed the lettuce. We ate together like it was the most natural thing in the world. Lily talked about school, about her best friend's hamster, about a theory she had that carrots grew better if you sang to them. I listened, like always, because kids deserve to be heard. The woman, still not offering much about herself, watched the whole thing quietly. She laughed at Lily's jokes, asked thoughtful questions, and for the first time I saw her relax, shoulders losing their tightness. Later, while clearing dishes, she asked the question most people avoided. What kind of work did you do before carpentry? I hesitated, wiping my hands on a towel. Architectural engineering. Morrison and Associates. We specialized in sustainable buildings. Good people, good projects. My jaw tightened. Then the parent company pulled the rug out. Whole firm collapsed. 43 of us lost our jobs a few weeks before Christmas. Her face went pale, though she tried to hide it. That must have been hard. Hard. I gave a short laugh. Yeah, you could say that. Anna worked double shifts just to keep us afloat. Broke her down. Took years off her life. I glanced toward Lily, who was coloring at the table, and kept my voice even. Funny thing is, losing that job forced me to be home more. Gave me time with Anna before the accident. Guess some losses hand you gifts you don't see until later. She nodded, but I saw something shift in her eyes. Guilt. Maybe a recognition. She carried it quietly the rest of the evening, like the truth was pressing against the walls of her chest, but not ready to come out. When she left, Lily hugged her goodnight like they'd known each other for years. I walked her to the door, and she whispered, almost to herself, sometimes the past catches up in ways you don't expect. I didn't know what she meant, but I knew this. Whoever she really was, she carried a storm with her. And whether I liked it or not, it was already brushing against the edges of our life. 3 weeks slipped by faster than I expected. She was showing up at dinners, helping Lily with homework, even volunteering at the school library. It felt natural, like she'd been part of our rhythm longer than she had. Then one Thursday afternoon, Lily came bursting into the workshop, tablet clutched tight. Daddy, look. There's a lady on the news who looks just like Amy. I wiped sawdust off my hands, more amused than alarmed, until I saw the screen. A polished news anchor was talking about federal investigations, corporate fraud, and a missing witness named Amelia Thornfield. The photo beside the headline wasn't just similar. It was her. Same face. Same eyes. Same woman who had been eating spaghetti at my table like she belonged there. My hand froze on the sandpaper. I looked from the tablet to her face, and something in my gut dropped like a stone. See? Lily giggled, oblivious. She has the same hair and everything. Wouldn't it be funny if Amy was secretly rich? The silence stretched until it hurt. I set the tablet down carefully. Amy Collins, I said slowly, my voice calm in a way that scared even me. Or should I say Amelia Thornfield? Her mouth opened, words tumbling but stopping short. Ben, I can explain. I held up a hand, nodding toward the door. Lily, sweetheart, why don't you take that tablet back to Madison's? I'll pick you up in an hour. For once, Lily sensed the shift in the room. She nodded and slipped out without arguing. The sound of the front door closing left the air heavier than steel. I turned back to her. Thornfield Industries. That's the parent company that gutted Morrison and Associates. That cost me my career. That put Anna through hell. My fists clenched at my sides. And your father, Harrison Thornfield, is the man who signed the papers. Tears filled her eyes. I never meant for this to happen. I didn't know about your connection. I was hiding. I was just what? My voice cracked sharper than I intended. Some kind of charity project for a billionaire's daughter? Slumming it with the working class until it got uncomfortable. Her face twisted with hurt. It wasn't like that. Everything I felt here, everything with you and Lily, that was real. I never lied about my feelings. I laughed once, bitter. No, just about everything else. Your name, your past, the fact that your family destroyed mine. Before I could say more, the workshop door opened again. Only it wasn't Lily this time. 3 men in tailored suits stepped inside, fanning out like security detail. Behind them came a tall man with silver hair, sharp eyes, and a presence that filled the room like a blade sliding from its sheath. Amelia, he said, his voice cold and commanding. You've caused quite a stir. Her father, Harrison Thornfield. He glanced around my modest workshop like it was trash. Mr. Carter, isn't it? We've done our research. Former engineer, now reduced to carpentry. I'm here to collect my daughter and return her to her responsibilities. This fantasy ends tonight. I stepped forward, planting myself between him and her. My voice came out steady. This is private property. You need to leave. He smirked, amused. Careful. Harboring a federal witness carries consequences. I have very good lawyers. Amy found her voice then, stepping out from behind me. I'm not going anywhere with you. I'm cooperating with the investigation. You can't stop it. The mask slipped from his face, replaced by raw calculation. Then you'll do it without family, without money, without the protection of your name. Think carefully, Amelia. He leaned toward me, lowering his voice. And as for you, be smart. Don't tie your daughter's future to a woman being hunted by half the country. I straightened to my full height. Are you threatening me in my own home? My tone was steel. Because I should tell you, this conversation is being recorded. Security system. Installed after my wife died. Amazing what even a carpenter can afford these days. For the first time, his composure cracked. He signaled his men, and they filed out behind him. This isn't over, he said, his glare locked on Amy. You think you understand what world you're walking into, but you don't. And then he was gone, leaving the workshop smaller, tainted by his shadow. Amy leaned against the bench, shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered. I never wanted this to touch you and Lily. I stood there, my world spinning, the truth heavier than anything I'd ever lifted. This woman had brought light into my house and dragged darkness right behind her. That night, I barely slept. I sat at the kitchen table long after Lily was in bed, staring at the music box on the mantel. The little wooden dancer spun slowly, her tune filling the house with a softness that cut deeper than silence. Anna's memory had always been my anchor. Now I felt untethered, like I didn't know what to believe anymore. By morning, I knew I had to talk to Amy. I went to her hotel room, knocked once, and when she opened the door, her eyes were swollen from crying. She stepped aside without a word, and I walked in. I stayed near the door at first, like I wasn't sure if I should even be there. I've been thinking about what your father said. I started. My voice came out rough, but steady. About you being a federal witness. About the danger this brings to Lily. Her shoulders stiffened, and I saw the fear flash in her face. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. Let me finish. I took a breath, ran a hand through my hair. I also thought about something else. The way you looked when you realized what Thornfield Industries did to my family. The way you've been with Lily, like you've never known what it feels like to be loved without conditions. And I thought about this. From my jacket pocket, I pulled out a small figure wrapped in soft cloth. I'd carved it in the days after the truck incident without even knowing why. I unwrapped it and set it in her trembling hands. It was a dancer, delicate, carved with the same care I'd given to Anna's music box figure. Amy's breath caught. It's beautiful. It belongs with the other one, I said quietly. Anna's dancer was always alone in that box. Maybe she was waiting for a partner. She looked up at me, tears sliding down her face. You'd put me in the music box with her? I nodded. Not as a replacement. As an addition. Not forgetting what I lost, but making room for what's real now. For you. Her hands shook as she held the carving, like it was heavier than wood. Ben, there's so much you don't know about me. Ugly things about my family. About who I was raised to be. Then tell me. I said simply. We have time. But no more secrets. If we're going to face what's coming, we do it together, with the truth between us. She pressed the little figure to her chest, her shoulders shaking. And for the first time since the truck barreled down that hill, I believed we might actually find a way forward. Not easy, not clean, but real. 4 months later, I sat in the third row of a federal courtroom in Portland, my hands tied on my knees, watching Amy swear on the Bible. Her voice was steady as she promised to tell the truth, but I knew the weight that promise carried. She wasn't just testifying against a company. She was dismantling her own bloodline. The place was packed. Journalists scribbling notes, prosecutors shuffling binders, photographers lurking like vultures. And there, at the defense table, sat Harrison Thornfield. Her father, the man who'd gutted my old firm and left Anna working herself half to death. He stared ahead, face stone cold, but I knew rage when I saw it. When Amy began her testimony, the room leaned in. She spoke clearly, outlining years of corruption, bribes, and corporate destruction. She had documents, recordings, copies of boardroom memos. She explained how Thornfield Industries had swallowed smaller companies whole, treating families like numbers on a balance sheet. I thought of my old coworkers, 43 jobs gone overnight. She was finally giving voice to all of them. At one point, the prosecutor asked her why she chose to come forward. Amy paused. Then her eyes found mine across the room. Because I met some of the people whose lives were destroyed by these practices, she said. And I realized they weren't just numbers. They were families. They were dreams. And I couldn't be part of destroying them anymore. The defense attorney tried to tear her apart, painting her as a spoiled rich girl seeking attention. Amy didn't flinch. She answered calmly, directly, every word sharper than the last. She'd prepared for this. She knew her father's world inside and out, and she used that knowledge to strip away every layer of his empire in front of everyone. During a recess, I found her in the hallway, shoulders slumped but unbroken. I handed her a thermos of coffee. "How are you holding up?" She gave a tired laugh. "Every word I speak is destroying what's left of my family. But it's the right thing." I squeezed her hand. "Anna always said doing the right thing costs more than you want to pay. But the price of not doing it is always worse." The trial dragged on for 6 weeks. When the verdict came, Harrison Thornfield was convicted on multiple counts: fraud, racketeering, conspiracy. 15 years in federal prison. Thornfield Industries dissolved. Assets sold off to pay restitution. Amy walked out of that courthouse with nothing from her old life. No inheritance. No empire. Just a small town waiting for her. A kid who adored her. And a carpenter who was still learning how to trust again. And as I took her hand outside in the cold April air, she smiled through tears. For the first time, Amelia Thornfield wasn't defined by her father's empire. She was just Amy. And to me, that was more than enough. Back in Cedar Falls, life didn't explode the way I feared it might. For a while, reporters circled, trying to get photos of the fallen heiress who had turned on her father. But small towns protect their own. Folks closed ranks around us. Martha at the diner fed the press decaf when they ordered regular, and Mrs. Patterson gave interviews about respecting privacy until the cameras gave up and moved on. Eventually, the noise faded, and we were left with the quiet life we'd been building all along. Amy found work at the community center, using her business know-how to secure grants and set up programs for kids and single parents. She traded boardrooms for folding chairs and potluck dinners, and I think for the first time in her life, she felt useful in a way that mattered. She rented a small apartment above the bookstore on Main Street, but most nights she ended up at my place. Her books migrated to my shelves, her coffee mugs to my cabinets, her toothbrush to my bathroom. We never made some big declaration about it. It just happened naturally, like water finding its level. Evenings turned into routines that felt like family. Saturday mornings, I flipped pancakes shaped like animals. Sunday afternoons, we walked around the square no matter the weather. Bedtime stories stretched into adventures we made up together, each of us adding chapters until Lily finally fell asleep with a smile on her face. The music box on the mantel became a symbol of all of it. The dancer Anna had once wound every night was no longer alone. Amy's carved figure spun beside her now. 2 dancers, circling in harmony, proof that love doesn't erase the past, it builds on it. I watched Lily adapt with the kind of ease only children have. She took to Amy like she'd been waiting for her all along, drawing her into our small circle without hesitation. When Amy missed a night, Lily set 3 plates at the table anyway, convinced she'd show up. And the truth was, Amy had become part of us. Not because of blood or history, but because every day she chose to be. Every night she chose to sit at our table, help with homework, laugh at Lily's wild theories about vegetables and music, and fold herself into the rhythm of our lives. I'd lost Anna, and for a long time I thought that meant the story ended there. But sitting in that modest house, listening to Lily play her own little melodies on the piano at church, watching Amy laugh at something as simple as garlic bread gone wrong, I realized the story wasn't finished. We were building something new. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Spring came early that year, and with it a shift I couldn't ignore. We'd been living like a family for months, routines stitched together so naturally it felt like we'd always been 3 at the table. One evening, as Lily practiced cartwheels in the yard, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the gold band I'd stopped wearing months before. Anna's ring. Amy was beside me on the porch, watching Lily flip and tumble, dirt on her cheeks, laughter filling the yard. I kept my eyes on my daughter when I spoke. Anna always said this ring should stand for love that keeps going, love that grows instead of ending. Amy went still, her hands tightening in her lap. I turned the ring in my fingers. I think she'd wanted to be part of something new, something that honors what we had and what we've found. Finally, I met Amy's eyes. Are you willing to be Lily's mom? My partner in this life? Make it official. For a moment, she just looked at me, tears brimming. Then she whispered, yes, to all of it. I slipped the ring onto her finger, where it seemed to settle like it had been waiting all along. We were married that June in the same community center where I'd first heard Lily stumble through for Elise. Half the town showed up. Mrs. Patterson stood as matron of honor. Martha from the diner handled catering. Folks brought folding chairs and casseroles, turning the place into something far grander than money could buy. Lily marched down the aisle as both flower girl and ring bearer, taking her duties so seriously you'd think the fate of the world depended on her. Amy wore a simple dress from the boutique on Main Street. Nothing flashy, just perfect. I wore my father's old suit, patched and tailored, and carried a small wooden figure I'd carved for her. A family of 3, hands joined, facing forward. When the minister asked if we would honor each other in all circumstances, my throat tightened. I thought of the runaway truck, of secrets and lies, of the trial that gutted her past and forced me to confront mine. And somehow, through all of it, we'd ended up here, promising to build a future out of nothing but trust and choice. That night, as the town danced and laughed long past midnight, I found Amy outside under the stars. She leaned into me, her new ring catching the light. Any regrets? I asked. She shook her head. Only that it took a runaway truck to bring us together. Then she smiled, that small, quiet smile she saved just for me. But maybe some of the best things are worth waiting for, even when you don't know you're waiting. 18 months later, I stood at our kitchen window, watching Lily and her friend Madison hammer boards into the treehouse I was guiding them through. Amy moved behind me, humming as she set the table. The music box on the mantel played softly, both dancers turning side by side. Our life wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was ours, built out of second chances, out of broken pieces we'd refused to throw away. And as I watched my daughter laugh in the fading light, Amy's hand finding mine, I knew I wouldn't trade this for all the empires in the world.